sore semuanya. Oke, terima kasih sudah menunggu. Oke, sore ini kita kedatangan tamu istimewa. Ya, we have the special guest here. Ya, Mrs. Kimberly Bomer. Is it right?
Yes.
Ya. So hari ini Mrs. Kim akan memberikan kuliah, dengan topik mengenai kontrak, ya, kontrak in corporate contract, standar corporate contract. Ya, topiknya adalah tentang kontrak corporate. Ya, dan mungkin teman-teman di sini adalah calon-calon drafter, ya, calon-calon notaris, kebanyakan dari magister penatriatan yang tentunya harus menguasai kemampuan membuat perjanjian atau menyusun kontrak. Oke, mungkin saya akan membacakan sedikit CV dari Mrs. Kimberly Bomer. Mrs. Kim ini adalah lulusan dari Stanford Law School, ya, dari Amerika Serikat. Kemudian beliau mendapatkan beasiswa dari National University of Singapore. Kemudian beliau fokus pada penegakan hukum kekayaan intelektual, ya, di Asia. Kemudian juga beliau sudah punya banyak pengalaman berkecimpung sebagai attorney at law atau sebagai pengacara profesional di beberapa law firm di Amerika Serikat, ya, seperti di Graham and James LLP, and then Fenwick West LLP and others law firm. Yeah, I think she has a lot of experiences, and this is our great opportunity to having she come to share to us. Yeah, so I think that's the summarize of the biography of Mrs. Kimberly Bomer. And to shorten the time, I think I will give the opportunity for Mrs. Kim to give the presentations around 40 minutes, and the rest around 20 minutes we will hold the Q&A session. Yeah, you can asking anything related to the contract, to the our honorable guest, yeah, Mrs. Kimberly. So I think I will give the time for you, Ms. Kimberly. Time is yours. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. Terima kasih kepada sekalian untuk menerima saya ke sini hari ini. Dulu saya tinggal di Jogja sebagai siswa pertukaran AFS. Pada waktu itu saya ikut SMPP 10. Sekarang itu SMA 8. Jadi dulu bahasa Indonesia saya agak lancar, lebih lancar, lebih bagus daripada sekarang. Sekarang saya lupa yang banyak, jadi harus maafkan saya, harus bicara bahasa Inggris hari ini. So my apologies, and I have to find my presentation. Okay, my apologies. Please bear with me while I share with you today about contracts in English with a little translation help. So I spoke to another class earlier, a lot of stuff about how to be a good contracts attorney. And that was fine, but I want to lighten this one up a little bit. I understand you are contracts attorneys. Notaris means contracts?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I want to do is talk about tales from the dark side of contracts law. And we're going to talk about some examples in my practice, all are my practice except for one, where things have gone very, very badly. And your job as lawyers is to help figure out how these problems could have been avoided. Okay? So I can sit here and talk, and you can nod off and maybe go to sleep, have a nap, or we can both do this. Okay? You'll try? You'll try. Okay, you know what Halloween is, right? That's coming up. So that's what we're going to talk about, spooky, scary things. about contracts. Okay, let me find my, okay. So let's start here. We're going to talk about the case of the disappearing co-founder. So I practice in Silicon Valley. Do some of you know where Silicon Valley is? Anybody ever heard of Silicon Valley? Okay, yes. So this is where companies get started. Google, Facebook, Yahoo, Hewlett-Packard, LinkedIn, so many of these companies, they get started. The origin was Stanford University, computer science. A lot of the companies spun out from there. And so you have this area around Stanford with all of these companies. And since that's where I live, that's mostly what I did when I got started. I was a startup lawyer. That means I make baby companies and I help them grow. Okay, so when companies get started, we call the people who have the idea, who come together, we call them the founder, if there's one, or the co-founders, if there's two or three. Okay, so I just want to make sure everybody understands. When we start a company, it's started by the founder or the co-founders. We good? Okay, so this is the case of the disappearing co-founder. And this is a sad but true story. In this case, there were 3 co-founders. One was the head of sales and business. One was the engineer. And one was the head of marketing, telling everybody why this is a good business. Now this company, we're going to call it Kaya Co. Let's say, because everybody wanted to be on Kaya, okay, Kaya Sakali. So we're going to call it Kaya Co. It had just gotten started. They hadn't done anything. They didn't have any money. They didn't even have an office. All they had was a really good idea. And they decided this idea is worth so much money, $500,000. Okay? So they gave themselves stock in the company and said it's worth $500,000 each one. Founder 1 got stock worth $167,000 because he gave ideas about sales. The other founder gave engineering ideas worth $167,000. And then the marketing person gave ideas. And in exchange, they got their stock. And they told the money, the valuation, they told the government for taxes, for securities. Okay, so here's now where the tragedy begins. Our 3 co-founders get to work. The engineer is very good. He's working very hard on his idea. Sales is going around finding companies that will want to use this product. Marketing, not so much. He's not so busy. He thinks there's not much to do yet. And so then the 3 rent some office space. Do we need to stop and explain?
Is it clear? Jelas?
All right, so then now they have office space. They're in an office and they're working. Guess who's not there? Engineering is there working. Sales is there working. We start to see the marketing co-founder less and less and less until he's not coming in at all. Now, how do you feel? Let's say you two started this company along with the person over here who we can't see because he's gone. You all are equal shareholders. You're working hard. He's not showing up. Now, what happens to this company? Can it continue like this? So what's got to happen? What has to happen? He's not showing up. So what's going to have to happen? Either they convince him to come to work, start doing his part, or he's got to go, right? Right? Okay, so he's not coming to work. So these two decide, we're going to get rid of him. He cannot stay here anymore. So there's 3 people in this company, and they tell him, go. And he says, fine, I will leave. But there's still a problem. If this company is successful, who gets the money?
Siapa yang dapat untung?
How many shareholders are there? No, there are 3. Right? But there were 3 in the beginning. They told him to go, so he left. But he took his shares with him. So what's the problem now? Do you want to go to work if he's got the same shares you do and he's not working? No. Everybody's pretty mad at that guy, right? And nobody wants to work. So what can be done with this case of the disappearing founder? Do you just shut the company down, go home, and try again? What can you do?
Apa solusinya kira-kira?
I think cut the co-founder.
What was that? Repeat it.
Cut the co-founder.
Yes, so we already sent him away. He said, fine, good luck, make me rich. And he's gone. But he took his shares with him. So what can they do?
Bagaimana cara mengcutnya bagaimana?
Oh, karena sahamnya udah diambil.
Sahamnya masih tetap di, jadi si pihak orang ketiga si co-foundernya ini tetap dia keluar, tetapi sahamnya tetap di PT itu perusahaan itu. Dan ketika Anda jadi salah satu pemegang saham atau founder, apa yang Anda lakukan? He said that we have to do
shareholder
the
meeting.
GML, general meeting shareholder, to transfer the or to change the shareholder name.
So can you do that in Indonesia? Vote to take somebody's shares away from them without paying?
Yeah, it's approval.
You can take somebody's stock away from them and not pay?
Nah, it is cannot be.
No, not in America either. So that's a nice idea, right? Just we'll take his stock. They could ask him very nicely, please give it to us. They could ask, please, pretty please, give it back to us. They tried that, and he said no. So this was a real legal question. This was actually this happened to my client. I mean, this was my client. So think, you are lawyers, you're contract lawyers. Think for just a minute. What are some options here? We want him to get rid of, we do not want him there with all these shares. We are not motivated to work. So what can we do to get those shares from him?
Bagaimana cara mengembalikan saham dari co-foundernya itu yang hilang?
We bought it?
You say buy them?
Yeah, by
Exactly. Exactly. Buy them back. Brilliant. No problem. But how much are those shares worth?
berapa nilai saham yang akan dibeli?
$167,000. Right? In the very beginning, this is a company, no money, no office, no business, no nothing. But because they're all really, really smart, they said, we think it's worth $500,000. So each of them got $166,666 worth of stock. So now he's not doing anything. He says, if you want the stock, you buy it back from me. And they said, well, we'll give you $1,000. He said, no, $166,667 if you want the stock. Is this a real company yet? No product, no client, still working to build the company. So tell me, what would you do? You two co-founders. He wants $167,000 to leave the company.
Apa yang dilakukan ketika meminta harga yang sangat tinggi untuk harga saham?
You don't have the money. You have to take a loan. You don't have that money. It's a lot of money, even in America. You have to take a loan so that you can have this business just to buy him out. What do you do?
Ada pendapat? Silahkan.
Do you let the company fail,
Ya.
or do you buy him out because you believe in your company?
Anda biarkan perusahaannya itu gagal, atau Anda akan membeli saham yang dijual tadi dengan harga yang mahal dari co-founder?
Okay, so I'm going to require participation. Raise your hand if you think they should let the company fail and just try again later. Raise your hand if you think let it fail.
Siapa yang berpendapat yang memilih untuk membiarkan perusahaannya?
There's only two choices. That means if you don't choose this one, everyone has to choose the next one.
Setiap orang harus memilih.
Just raise your hand.
Siapa yang memilih
Let it fail.
membiarkan perusahaannya gagal?
Let it fail. Okay, now, then everybody else now has to raise their hand if you think buy him out. Raise your hand if you think buy him out. Harus tidak ada C. Only A and B. Only A and B. Yes.
Ada dua pilihan ya.
Okay, I'll give you C, but you have to participate. I really don't know. So you can raise your hand if C, I really don't know. Somebody's waiting for D. Okay, good enough. So here's what happened. The two co-founders took out a loan from their houses. We call that a mortgage. And each gave him half of the cash to buy his shares so that they could continue with the company. So the invisible co-founder did nothing, but got $167,000 for his work. Fair? Adil? Beradab? No. The good news is, this was about 18 years ago. This company is doing well. The two co-founders who stayed, they're doing very well, and the company is stable, and they're making good money. So even though it's a nightmare, it was a nightmare at the time, it turns out it has a happy ending. Okay? So we're talking about lawyers and contracts, but these always involve real people. So this is just a kind of fun. I will say this was not fun when it was happening. It was not fun at all when it was happening. But trying to just give you a chance to think about some real life examples of when contracts are really challenging. Okay? Let's call that a warm up, because now we're going to do another one. Are you ready? All right. This one is a little bit similar. We're going to talk about the soccer joker. Okay? The soccer joker. This one is a little similar in that we have, again, a new startup, because that was my background, startup law. Only two co-founders. We started with one very smart man, an engineer with a very good idea. This was about maybe 15 years ago, and he'd had video compression. So videos you can access your videos very quickly. He had a very good idea, but he had another job, and he knew he's going to have to quit his job if he wants to make his idea successful. But he was afraid. He didn't want to do it by himself. So he had a friend from his job who believed in him. And he said, I'm going to quit my job too. I'll join you. You do the engineering, and I'll do the business. And so they agreed. That way, the engineer, the good founder, he had the courage to leave his job and to focus on his business. All of that went really well for a while. They were developing the idea. They even got some venture capital investment. They rented an office. Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot the most important part here. So both of them came in as equal partners, 50-50, the founders, equal partners. The one with the idea, the engineer whose idea it was, the hard worker, and the friend who was just coming to help. They came in equally. I asked my client about that. Are you sure? He said, yes, he's my friend, and I won't do this unless he helps me. Okay, so I want to tell you about something that's very, very important in Silicon Valley, in venture capital financings, in corporate law in California, and it's called vesting. So that says, vesting means I am a founder, I get 1 million shares in this company, okay? 1 million shares. But even though I'm the founder, I'm paying for them, I have to earn them over usually 4 years. 4 years I have to stay with the company before I earn my shares and the company can't take them back. You might think, well, why didn't you do that with the invisible founder? We did, but still they had to pay the money to buy the shares back. In this case, we have 2 founders. They should have vesting. So if one founder leaves, the company can buy back their stock. Otherwise, it's like the invisible founder who just stops working, but still keeps all of his stock. Does that need to be explained, vesting? You have to work 4 years to earn out that stock. You have it, but it takes 4 years before you truly earn it. So now remember, we have the 2 co-founders. I said we must have vesting for both of you. The good founder said, no. I trust my friend. No vesting. We just give me my stock, give him my stock, no vesting. What that means is, if he doesn't show up to work tomorrow, too late. He has the stock, right? Is this a good idea to give someone stock with no obligation? No, it's a lousy idea. What do you do if you have a client and they want to do something completely foolish? What do you do? Do you have any ideas of what you do if a client wants to do something and you know it's a mistake? You know it's a bad idea. What do you do? How do you explain this to your client? Maybe we explain, but what do you do if you know your client is making a mistake? How do you tell them that this is making a mistake?
Ketika klien Anda melakukan sebuah kesalahan, ya, tadi ketika dia percaya dengan temannya bahwa ya dia berikan porsi saham yang sama dari 50-50%, and then kemudian dia baru menyadari bahwa itu kesalahan. Kemudian apa yang teman-teman bisa lakukan, ya, ketika ada di dalam posisi tersebut? Kita sudah porsi sahamnya sama, ya. Jadi tadi biasa di Amerika, di California, di startup di perusahaan-perusahaan startup biasanya itu ada kebiasaan menggunakan istilah vesting tadi, ya. Artinya di situ biasanya founder ini tidak dengan langsung ketika ada co-founder tidak dengan langsung akan diberikan saham yang sama sebelum dia melakukan suatu pekerjaan kurang lebih 4-5 tahun untuk membuktikan bahwa dia memang memiliki komitmen untuk bekerja membangun perusahaan tersebut. Nah, tapi di case yang diceritakan Mrs. Kim,
Yeah, Kim,
dia terlalu baik lah istilahnya, dengan temannya diberikan saham langsung 50% di awal tanpa dengan mekanisme vesting tadi, ya, hak untuk membeli kembali saham yang 50% di 4-5 tahun kemudian ketika dia perusahaannya sudah berjalan, gitu kan, sudah menghasilkan keuntungan. Nah, kira-kira bagaimana solusinya, gitu kan? Sudah terlanjur didirikan perusahaan, sudah terlanjur share-nya sama, dan satunya not perform, nggak mau bekerja, nggak mau membangun perusahaan ini. Kira-kira solusinya apa? Mungkin hampir mirip ya dengan case yang pertama tadi ada kemiripan, ada sedikit kemiripan.
Maybe this is also culture. What do you do in Indonesia? Maybe this is a little different. Where I am, if you think your client is making a mistake, can you tell them? You can. Yes, you should if you're their lawyer, right? So what I did in this case was I said to my client, you're making a big mistake. You should have vesting. That way, if he leaves, you'll get your stock back. He said, no, I trust him. So this is an important part of our practice. Then, have you heard the phrase, put it in writing? If you tell someone something, there's no evidence, no proof you said it. So we put it in writing, so you have evidence you said it. I sent my client an email and said, you want to do something really foolish. I advised you, don't do this really foolish thing. You still say you want to do it. Please respond to my email and confirm you really want to do this foolish thing, right? So now I have a record. I advised my client, don't do this. And they said, yes, do it anyway. I have a record of that. So that's the first thing. If you have a client and they're making a big mistake, you have to tell them. It's your job. You must advise them. Then, in case the thing blows up, you have to have a record that you told them. Okay? All right, now we're talking about scary contract tales. You tell me what happened next. Do you think it worked out well? No. What happened? Generally, what do you think happened here? Not bankrupt. Not bankrupt. Between the two, good idea though, but between the two founders, what do you think happened?
Apa yang terjadi di antara kedua foundernya tadi?
I'll tell you why I call this the soccer joker. Because I'll have to come out to show you. The engineering founder was very good. He's hardworking, smart. It was his idea, remember? His friend who joined him really likes soccer. So the company is getting started. They're working. They got some money. They're hiring more people. They have an office. And the friend playing soccer. He joined a men's soccer club. He would come in and work sometimes, but then less and less, like our disappearing co-founder. But worse, he didn't disappear. He kept coming. He'd come in his soccer uniform. He'd have a ball in the office. He would come, you know how people do this with the soccer ball? In the office. He would say, hey guys, come, play with me. They're playing soccer in the office. How mad was his co-founder? Pretty mad, right? Because how much of the company does he have? Half of it. Is he working? No. Even worse, he's making everybody angry. Everybody else is working. And he's coming in, ooh, soccer, soccer. I love my soccer. Arsenal, Barcelona, all these other teams, right? So he's being a nuisance. But nobody can do anything because he has the stock. Then this is when our story becomes really bad. The money runs out. They need to raise more investments. The investors who already invested, and this company is very good. It's making great progress. So the investors who already invested said, yes, we want to give you more money, but not with that soccer joker here. We're not going to give you $20 million, and we know it's just going to go to this soccer joker. So no money unless you get rid of the soccer joker. No money. So my client went to the soccer joker, his friend, and said, the whole company will fail. You have to give your stock up and leave. He said, no, if it fails, it fails. What do I care? I'm not going to give up my stock. So you can be rich and I'll have nothing. So here's the dilemma. Think about this for a minute. The company needs investment. The investors will only invest if the soccer joker gives up his stock and leaves. What do you do?
Jadi perusahaan venture capitalnya hanya akan memberikan tambahan modal ketika yang tadi co-founder yang soccer joker tadi harus mengeluarkan sahamnya, dia tidak ada sebagai pemegang saham itu. Kira-kira kalau sebagai founder utamanya apa yang dilakukan?
You have some ideas because of the last example.
Apa yang dilakukan? Membeli saham.
Did someone say believe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they could buy it, but they have to use the company's money. The investors said, no, you're not using any company money for that soccer joker. So the board of trustees, the directors said, no company money. You have to get rid of him some other way. Okay, so how can they get rid of the soccer joker? Ditembak, stab, poison, right? None of those, but they have to get rid of him some other way. This is a very sad story. Be thinking, whose fault is this? I'll give you a hint. Whose fault was this?
Siapa yang melakukan kesalahan dalam kasus ini?
The soccer joker is bad. Who allowed the soccer joker to have all this stock? The good founder, his friend. All right. So what can the good founder do to convince the soccer joker to leave? This was a real case, a real scenario, and we had to come up with a solution. So we didn't do it in 2 minutes, like I'm asking you. But see if you can think about how could the good friend, whose fault this was, solve the problem. It's a very, very sad solution.
Gimana kira-kira kalau dengan membeli sahamnya tadi investor meminta jangan menggunakan uang perusahaan sama sekali, ya. Artinya kan ketika tadi founder harus membeli saham dari co-foundernya, uang dari mana?
This is tough. Unless someone has some ideas, I'll tell you what happened. The soccer joker agreed to give his stock to the company in exchange for half of the good founder's stock. The friend, it was the friend's fault, the good founder. He had to give him half of his stock plus money to buy him out. So the good founder had to give up half of his stock plus money, I think a few $100,000. And then the soccer joker agreed to give his stock back to the company. And then the investors invested in the company.
Jadi solusinya tadi si soccer joker mau keluar dengan syarat mendapatkan setengah saham dari si founder dan dengan sejumlah uang yang harus diberikan kepada co-founder.
Oh, sorry.
Baru dia mau keluar dan investor bisa masuk ke perusahaan tersebut.
Does that seem like a fair answer?
Apakah fair seperti itu? Not fair?
Can you, yeah. But
Why is not fair? Kenapa nggak fair? Kenapa kira-kira?
It's not working.
Yes.
How get gaji buta?
Because
co-founders didn't work anything.
That's right.
But he got a share and he got the money.
But whose fault was it?
Tapi salah siapa itu? Bisa tahu. Salah founder.
The founder, because if the founder, if the founder had had vesting, they would have bought his stock back at a penny a share, which is what he originally got it. A penny a share, gone, done. But he said no vesting. So now there's more to this story. The good founder who stayed over time was given more stock, bonuses and appreciation. So he ended up with more stock than the soccer joker. And then the company was acquired. This business was very, very successful. It was acquired for a tremendous amount of money, and the good founder became a very, very wealthy man. And guess how much money the soccer joker got? This is easy, just guess how much money when the company was acquired. Remember, he still has a lot of stock. How much money do you think he got?
Berapa kira-kira? Tebak aja.
Just some ideas.
Perusahaan
In dollars, just throw out some ideas.
Perusahaan ternyata berkembang dan bisa menghasilkan banyak keuntungan dan diambil alih, diakuisisi oleh investor. Dan kira-kira berapa nilainya? Ada yang bisa mengira-ngira? Berapa dalam US dollar?
I know you have an idea because you two have been talking. How much do you mean? Just a guess. How much do you think he got? 5 million? More. Who wants to guess how much? More than 5 million. Our friend already told you it's more. How much? It's more than that. Just throw out some numbers.
Coba silakan ditebak, ini tebak harga nanti yang betul dapat hadiah.
Maybe this.
Dapat hadiah buah.
Just some numbers. 8,000, 1,000 million? Somebody was really close. The soccer joker got almost 60 million US dollars.
90 juta dolar. Berapa itu dirupiahkan itu nominal? Banyak.
Yes, yes. You know, there's a saying in America, cheaters never prosper. You know that saying? Cheaters never prosper. That's not true.
That's not true.
Because he really, really prospered.
Yeah.
He got very, very rich. But all of that could have been avoided if the good founder had listened to his lawyers. So just remember that. You want to give good advice to your clients. You want to document if they don't take your advice. And then when things go badly, you want to do the best you can to help them get out of a difficult situation. And in the end, things might work out really well still. Okay? Any questions about the soccer joker?
Ada pertanyaan? Soccer joker, kasus soccer joker tadi? Ya.
It's like the case Apple Corporation when they take out the job from the company and the Facebook too.
Good question. Is it like, well, Steve Jobs was a tremendous shareholder, so they couldn't really get rid of him. I think once public companies, meaning the stock is traded on the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ, once the value starts to decline, the board will say, how are you going to fix this? Or you need to go. So that often will happen. So maybe they will lose their job, but they don't lose their stock. Steve Jobs did not lose his stock. What's his name? Facebook? I should know. I don't like Facebook. He's not losing any stock. Even Meta tanking, he's still not losing any stock. Even Elon Musk, who is maybe insane, he's still not losing any of his stock. For all of the mistakes he makes and for all of the issues, he keeps his stock. So some problems are only contracts, and they can be solved with contracts. This one, your problem is a little bit different. Okay? So I apologize. These first two were very technical about startups and stock. These next few are going to be quicker and I think will be more intuitive, easier to understand. This one is very short, not many details. The creepy house. I like this. Don't go in there. You know when you see a scary movie and you see it's dark and steam is coming out and oh, something like that. And then someone says, I wonder what's in there. And you want to say, don't go in there. Okay, so this is a little like that. My friend has a son. His name is Carl. Carl is very smart. Carl just graduated from Harvard College. So a smart guy. But, and Carl just got a job. He lives in California. He got a job in Washington State, in Seattle. Does anyone know Dungeons and Dragons? Have you heard of a game called Dungeons and Dragons? So he's going to help make some of these games. So he has to move now from his home in California to a house in Seattle. He looked online and found a house and told his mother, I'll just rent a room in this house. Not the whole house, just rent one room in this house. His mother and his sister said, don't sign the contract until you see the house, right? See the house. Just fly there first and see the house. But Carl, who went to Harvard, said, it looks all right. Now, we're talking about this for creepy Halloween contracts that have gone badly. What do you think happened? Oh, let me tell you, in the contract, there was what's called an as-is clause. So when you sign the contract, you agree to stay in the house as is. You can't tell the owner to change anything or fix anything. You agree to take the house as it is now. Do you think Carl took his mother's advice? Is that why we're talking about it now? No. Carl signed the contract and then moved up to Seattle with his things to move into the house. Okay, what happened next? Was the house good?
Berapa yang terjadi ketika Carl ke rumah itu? Ada yang pernah ke ini, ke apa, wahana yang rumah hantu?
Okay, so he got to the house. You know what happened. It was bad, right? It was really bad. How bad was it? There was filth, rotting food, bugs, dirty laundry, and there had been 3 tenants in the house. There were 3. When he got there, there was only 1, depressed and suicidal. You know suicide, mau bunuh diri. Yes. And because of her mental health issues, she had run off the other tenants. So in this house, only Carl and her filth. Okay. So do you think Carl wanted to stay in the house? No, Carl did not want to stay in the house. So now what's the problem? I'll give you a hint. We're talking about contracts. So what's the problem?
Kira-kira apa masalahnya? Atau kesalahannya ada di mana?
So what do you think was in the contract? When he signed the contract, what did he promise? He promised to pay money, right? He promised to pay money to stay in the house. So he actually signed the contract and he gave the first 3 months of the money as security. So can Carl just leave now? Yes, if he wants to. Can he get that money back? No, he can't. So this is where I came in, because this is not my client, this is my friend's son. my friend, excuse me, my friend called me and said, Kim, what should I do? Should I hire a lawyer? I'm in California, so I can't practice. My license is only for California. I don't have a license for Washington. So she said, should I hire a lawyer in Washington to get that money back? Lawyers are expensive. So she asked, should I spend a lot of money to hire a lawyer? What do you think? Will that be a good use of money or a waste of money?
Kira-kira kalau Anda jadi posisinya Kal, apakah akan meng-hire lawyer dengan membayar sejumlah uang yang cukup besar, atau akan membiarkan uang sewanya hilang? Apa? Pilih yang mana? By lawyer. Yeah, to pay the lawyer.
Yeah, well, he could do that. Do you think that the lawyer would be able to get the money back? Because there was an as-is clause. So there's an exception to as-is. If there was, if there's a dead body in there, then that's clearly a legal violation. But other than that, he agreed to as-is. I think he was just out of luck. But you tell me now, if you have someone who wants to sign a contract, what can you do? What could Carl have done? Let's say he decided he was not going to fly up there and look at it first. What could he have put in the contract to solve this problem?
Kira-kira klausul apa itu yang bisa dimasukkan ke dalam perjanjian agar hal seperti ini tidak terjadi? Teman-teman jadi notaris nanti harus tahu nih, memprediksi masalah-masalah yang mungkin terjadi dalam perjanjian. Ya, seperti tadi perjanjian sewa menyewa itu perjanjian sederhana, ya. Tetapi faktanya juga menimbulkan dispute atau permasalahan hukum. Ya. Perjanjian sewa menyewa, it's a simple agreement, but you see there is a problem.
So one idea here is a breakup fee, which says that I'm not sure I'm going to like this house. What if we agree that if I don't like it, I will tell you soon, within 30 days, and then I'll just pay you 1 month, maybe 1 month extra, but not 3 months or 4 months, and I can get out. Or what if we say, I pay you, I get to come and look first, 2 days, then pay. Lots of things he could have done, but to just sign the contract was the worst possible thing, right? So sometimes contracts, they're legal issues. Often they're practical issues, common sense issues. So as lawyers, we need to consider all of those, the common sense issues as well as the legal issues. All right? Okay, let's try one more of these. I think some of you will enjoy this one a little bit more. This is a very simple fact pattern. Very simple facts. The overly eager housemate. There is a man who owns a house. This was not my client, this was a friend. There's a man who owns a house. And there's a lady who wants to rent a room. He quickly agrees to let her rent a room. No background check. No nothing. He just says, okay, you can move into my house. And she does. Okay, clearly that's mistake number 1, right? Why do we do background checks?
Kenapa harus lakukan background check dulu? Penting nggak? Untuk apa?
Yes, because this is a stranger. It's different if it is your friend or your friend's sister your friend's brother, someone you know. This is a stranger. He knows nothing. So, but he agreed, yes, you can live in my house. Why do you think he agreed quickly? That this lady could live in his house? Maybe. What's some possible reasons why he just said, okay, yeah, you can live in my house? Why? I think some of you guys know. You just don't want to say.
Please speak up, yeah.
I called on you enough. I won't call on you. Why might someone say to a lady, oh yeah, you can live in my house, and no background check?
Kira-kira kenapa tiba-tiba pemilik rumah langsung mengizinkan tanpa mengetahui siapa yang akan tinggal di rumah?
Do you think it had anything to do with her appearance? Could be she had a lot of money. I don't know if he knew her money. He only saw her. He saw her. So how do you think she looked?
Dia hanya melihat ya, dan langsung mengizinkan tinggal di rumahnya tanpa melakukan background check nih, riwayatnya dia siapa, apakah pernah melakukan tindak pidana misalnya. Kira-kira kenapa diizinkan ketika teman-teman dari pemilik rumah melihat sosok ini misalnya wanita gitu kan, langsung diizinkan untuk tinggal, kenapa? Alasan ini cowok nih terutama nih, coba kenapa alasannya? Good looking.
Yes, she was good looking. Okay, do you think this went well? No, because we're talking about it, right? This went very, very badly. She moved in, and about a week later, she called the police and said, he's harassing me. He's hurting me. You need to arrest him. The police came and arrested him and took him out of his own house and said, you can't go back there. You have to stay away from her until we resolve this at trial. Trial? 2 months. That means he was thrown out of his house for 2 months. She was there. She had friends there. She moved some of his furniture out. A lot of the furniture, she just took it and moved it away out of the house. Is that clear? So now he has to wait about 2 months, 2.5 months, until he gets to the trial. Do you think she will show up at the trial to tell the judge what's going on?
Jadi si perempuan tadi yang tinggal di rumah tiba-tiba melaporkan si pemilik rumah ke polisi, ya, dengan tuduhan bahwa si pemilik rumah melakukan tindakan asusila kepadanya. Dan selama 2,5 bulan di proses persidangan, si pemilik rumah bahkan harus meninggalkan rumahnya, ya, karena agar tidak satu rumah dengan si perempuan tadi. Dan apakah Anda berpikir ketika proses persidangan si perempuan itu akan datang dan menjelaskan apa yang terjadi sebenarnya?
Yeah, she was a fraud. She was a fraud and a criminal. And she took advantage of a man who was weak because she was pretty. The very easy solution was get a background check. He would have found her criminal history, that she was a criminal. And he never would have rented to, well, maybe, unless she was really pretty, maybe he still would have rented to her. So sometimes the law is there, rules are there, contracts, all these things are good, but we can't stop people necessarily from being foolish. Sometimes that's still a problem. But good lawyers, we do our best to advise people to make good decisions, and then we try to cover ourselves when they don't listen to us. So I think we were only going to take about 40 minutes, and I've gone over for that. So
Yeah.
I want to thank you for your time. I'm sorry I went a little bit longer again. I apologize that I've forgotten my Bahasa Indonesia. Thank you very much for help translating. And are there any questions? Or
Jadi silakan jika ada pertanyaan. Ini kesempatan langka ya. Ini lawyer startup yang cukup terkenal ya di California, di Sleman Valley. Ya. Mungkin bisa bertanya mungkin bagaimana di sana gitu kan. Atau pertanyaan-pertanyaan lain silakan. Silakan, pertanyaan masa nggak ada nih?
if none, I can close. If no questions, I can close with a final comment.
Oke. Kesempatan terakhir, ada pertanyaan? Oke, namanya siapa? Oke, Mas Zamzam. Oke.
Pertanyaannya tentang perbedaan antara corporate lawyer dengan in-house counselor.
Yeah.
So we asking about the differences between the corporate lawyer and
Mhm.
in-house lawyer.
Yeah, there are three kinds of lawyers, generally for corporate. There are I'll take this. Law firm lawyers, lawyers that work for the law firm. That's the office where everybody is a lawyer. And then there are companies like Google. Google is a company. It has its own legal department because law firms are very expensive. So they have their lawyers that work for the company in-house, the lawyers who are in-house. So you have firm lawyers, and then you have company lawyers, and then you have lawyers like me, solo practitioners. So I work for different companies, but only with one person in my office. So I'm not as expensive as companies like the big law firms. So some of my clients, for example, they might have big law firms if they need to do an acquisition or want to open an international office in another country. But let's say they just have some contracts because they need to hire an IT person. They want to, they need a new contract for a type of service. They want to hire an executive. So the contracts are not that complicated. I do those kinds of things. So whatever the company needs, that is a regular contract, that is what I tend to do. You're welcome. Did I answer your question? In-house versus firm? I think that was your question.
Sudah jelas? It's clear. Ini ada masih ada pertanyaan lain? Oke, silakan. Dengan siapa? Nuri. Oke, silakan.
Bagaimana ada kita nantinya dalam praktek itu untuk membuat perjanjian itu supaya aman? Seperti contohnya yang kontak rumahnya.
Okay. So she asking about how if they are as the drafter in the future, how to make the secure contract.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Just be very, very careful. You know, I talk about all these cases and how terrible they are, but these cases helped me be a good lawyer because when that soccer joker, it's kind of funny now, but it nearly destroyed my client. He gave up he has a family. Almost all these people have families. He gave up a very good job to follow this idea, and then he made a very foolish mistake that was going to cost him this new company. So when you see things like this happening, the stress helps you remember. So I feel like you can learn things two ways. You can learn from wisdom because you read, you studied, you were very careful, you did your part, learning from wisdom. Then you can learn from experience when it didn't go well. Sometimes learning from experience is better than learning from wisdom because you won't forget. I won't forget any of these clients. I'll never forget. These are things that would never happen more than once. And they're all still my clients, the ones that I was talking about, but I won't make that mistake twice. The other thing is that sometimes I don't want my client to call me and say, "You didn't tell me about this." That's the worst possible thing. When a client says, "You didn't tell me," So I will go through contracts the first time, big picture, then more carefully, then more carefully, until I'm going through line by line by line, every single line. Is everything in here correct? And then, you know, sometimes you're tired. I talked to the earlier group. You're working, you have a deadline. Maybe you're sleepy. Maybe you just had a big plate of nasi goreng and you're just ngantok, but you have to get the work done. So when I do that, when I'm sleepy, I always stop. I have to read it again. If I know I'm working, I'm so sorry. If I know I'm working when I'm sleepy, then I know I have to read it again later. So I feel like failure is the best teacher. Sometimes failure is just the best teacher. Because unless you like failing, I'm not a person who likes failing. I hate failing. And when you fail in something, you remember that awful, awful feeling, and that will help you never do it again. At least not the same mistake. Can I say one thing about being a good lawyer? You're asking me how to do a good contracts lawyer. So I have a solo practice. I'm known as a high-touch lawyer. I do everything for my clients. I don't have somebody else, associate. It's me, I do everything. I draft, I advise, I do everything. And my clients, my practice is closed. The only way I get a new client is if someone retires or their business is acquired. I've been turning away clients for years now because I can only accept clients that I can serve very well. And right now, it's enough. If I take more, maybe it's too much of a juggle. But I will tell you why I think my clients that I've had for over 20 years, some of them, why they stay with me, why they recommend me to other people. I don't believe I'm the best lawyer in Silicon Valley. I'm pretty sure I'm not. I'm sure there are other lawyers out there who are technically better than I am. But what I would encourage you to do as young lawyers is be a good person. Because when I deal with my clients, if my client is sad because they made a very big mistake, I remind them, you're a smart person. You've taken big risk. You have courage. You can do this. Pick yourself up again. You'll be okay. Or let's say I have a contract. There was a contract. My client's like, where is the contract? Where is it? We already signed. Where is it? Finally, the other side sent me the contract. She said, I'm very sorry this is late. My child was sick. I could have said, my client has been hounding me for days. I said, I'm a mama too. I understand how hard it is to juggle work. Don't worry about it. I hope your child is well. Whenever I finish a transaction, I tell the other side, thank you for helping to get this completed quickly. Or thank you for your patience. I know this took a long time. Or thank you for helping with the signature. Something. I find some reason to thank them so that next time we meet, we have a good relationship. We've established something reasonable. And I also tell my client, when my client finishes a transaction, congratulations. This is an excellent deal for you. I wish you so much success in your new business or your new whatever. So just remember, when you're working, especially if you have to work long hours, in America, lawyers work very long hours. If you're working long hours with some other lawyers who are working long hours, remember, we're all people, and I would say treat people with respect and dignity and niceness, even as a lawyer. Treat people nicely wherever you go. Your clients will want you. The other side will be pleasant in negotiating with you. And then I think together we elevate the reputation of lawyers. Okay?
Closing
Mrs. Kim berpesan bahwa jadilah seorang yang berprofesi dengan baik, ya. Entah teman-teman nanti menjadi lawyer, menjadi notaris, jadilah notaris atau lawyer yang baik, ya. Artinya teman-teman harus memberikan servis yang baik pada klien, harus menjaga hubungan baik dengan klien, ya, harus menjalankan profesi dengan sepenuh hati, ya. Itu nanti akan menjadi kunci ketika teman-teman nanti akan berprofesi di kemudian hari dan menjadi profesi hukum yang sukses, entah itu menjadi pengacara, menjadi notaris, ataupun apapun profesi di kemudian hari, ya. Saya rasa itu yang bisa disampaikan oleh Mrs. Kim hari ini, karena waktunya juga sudah menunjukkan pukul 5 lebih, maka saya akan tutup ya untuk acara kuliah umum dari Mr. Kim dengan bacaan hamdalah. Alhamdulillah. Okay, thank you for coming and see you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. Thank you. I'm sorry if that was a little difficult for the language. Hopefully it's okay.
I think the student is getting your point.
Yeah. Okay, hopefully so.
Yeah.
I'm glad to come. I thank you very much for the invitation. I very much appreciated it.
I'm also appreciate you are taking your time visiting our campus that
Yeah.
not that far from the city.
It's an honor, really. It's an honor.
Is this your first time coming here?
Yes, it is.
This is your first time?
Yeah. No, I've been to Jogja, but this
But not
UEE,
in
it's my
UEE,
first time. And then I wanted to go to the temple because I
you
have
go to
heard about that.
temples
Yes, I went to
already,
the
yeah?
temple. Yeah, that's neat. That is so neat.
That's not planned to build the